Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel here on YouTube, where we have the TNT takes for you on Survivor South Africa, Return of the Outcasts, week 4, and what a week this has been. Like, we had so many predictions, we thought we knew what was going on, but Zoe and Richard, we were completely wrong on so many counts. Zoe, how did you feel about seeing almost like the Red Wedding, if you've ever watched Game of Thrones, where just people were getting stabbed left, right, and center out of the game here. And all of our top picks, they were voted out one after the other.
It's shocking. My mind is still spinning. I'm just glad I never put down any money, because if I did, I will be broke right now.
Well, I don't gamble either. I've got the worst luck, and clearly I've got the worst. I don't pick winners well, Richard. Like, you know, Meryl was my winner pick. She's one of the people who fell this week. How did you feel about this week? Because you also lost your #1 female pick in Tony. All three of us. Man. We lost Tony, Steffi, and Meryl, which were the 3 #1 female picks, right, Richard?
Yep. Yeah, it's almost like we cursed them. I was actually, you know, Zoe was making fun of me on Twitter when I was like, Chorizo, Balesa, and Meryl final 3, and then what happens? They go out back to back. Like, oh well, maybe I should shut up for once.
Just sit back and enjoy the wild ride that the No BS Alliance is putting us on, because they are well and truly in the driver's seat. You know, they are in control of this game at this point. We've also got a new live streamer here, first time streaming live to. Don't know how to pronounce it. ZJZR08. Welcome to the live stream. It's great to have you here. We did have to last minute change the schedule around a little bit, so we're doing it at a different time this week because of interview scheduling, trying to get stuff done with South Africa and time zones. It's a little bit tough sometimes, but whenever you listen to this, if it's live, if it's listening to it afterwards, let us know in the comments. What was the most shocking thing for you this week? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? I'm sure there's a lot that we can talk about today, but let's start at the beginning of the episode. They're merged, you know, they go back to camp, and Zoe, Marion seems really jealous here because Dante has found some eyes for another person in the game, not her, and it's Felix.
Oh my God, Phyllis and Dante sitting under a tree. Like, oh my God, they are like the cutest couple ever right now. It's so cling what she's like, what is going on? I wish they were not so very open, especially when you have Phyllis hugging over Dante, leaning over Dante. I'm like, guys, don't make it so obvious how in love you all are. Like, come on. But it's a nice reunion. They seem to really enjoy each other's presence. Good for them. I just wish they were not so loud.
I never saw Dante smile as much as he did in such a short period of time as when Felix was around him in the game. And it was really cool to see. But something that Marion obviously saw as a threat, because she wanted to be that person that was close to Dante in the game. So this kind of just, again, drives Marianne away from that Dante alliance with the Breakfast Club trying to work together. It kind of pushes her in a different direction. We also see here in the early stages, obviously, they don't get a merge feast. So Steffi's quite upset about the fact that they don't get that. But then, Richard, we go into the challenge the next day, which is a challenge I really enjoy. We've seen it play out in Australian Survivor a few times, where you kind of have to earn the food that you get at the merge, and they have to take a slingshot with marbles, hit some plates. I believe it was 3 plates, and then they get certain items that are covered and other items that are not covered. And depending on where you finish in this challenge, you get first dibs. So it's first come, first serve. You get to choose what you want. What did you like of this challenge, and what stood out for you? What was shocking for you in this challenge?
Yeah, I mean, this is already a hard season, and adding this fight for the merge feast just made it, 10 times harder, if anything. Felix smashed it. I know, I don't know, maybe it's like an African thing. We always love playing with slingshots, so I'm guessing his childhood experience having fun with that instead of a tablet really helped him smash those plates. And then we also saw a dynamic where people are helping each other and maybe exposing some social relationships people have, where Shane actually helped Marion through her plates, and then later on, certain people are helping certain people, and then Tony wasn't helped, which maybe was indicating what's to come in the episode.
Yeah, it was interesting to see what they were doing there, Zoe, with helping some people a little bit more than others, and Tony being left out, clearly the person here that's in trouble. And I thought that, the likes of Dino going to Tony immediately first and helping her could have been a really big target on Dino's back for doing that, because in a game where you're looking for anything, he showed humanity and actually thought about her in this moment. And let's remember, Dino and Tony are friends outside of the game.
Yeah.
True, it would have put a target on his back, and I just didn't agree with anybody helping anyone in the first place, because there's a time on the food. Let me just sit down and enjoy my meal, take forever so I can finish my meal, because if you finish quickly, then the timer is on and I might not get to finish my meal. And don't help anyone either. Everybody has to fight for their own food. I did not agree with the whole helping thing, and I was shocked that Nico was like, let it happen. Well, for a production side, let it happen, because it'll create more chaos. You're exposing your alliances. But I would not have done it. I would not have gotten up to help anyone. I just don't think it's a smart thing to do, and it's not a right thing to do. Let everybody earn their meals. And shout out to Steffi, the rice girl. I'm never going to call her Steffi again. This point onwards, her name is Rice Girl.
Well, I will say this, though, Richard, if you're in a situation where people can help and they offer to help, and you're the only one sitting there not helping, what's your chances of getting the vote at the end if you made it? Do you reckon that people will vote for you and look at you as someone that they really want to give the money to at the end if you didn't actually show some humanity here?
Yeah, I think the best way to play Survivor is to do what the majority does. You don't want to be the first or potentially the only person helping other people, because now people think it's almost like what happened in Winners at War when Sarah gave up her reward for Nick when it was his birthday. Everyone was like, oh, that's pure gameplay. There's no way, someone's doing that out of the kindness of their heart. So there is that risk. But if there's many people already helping out, you can just jump in to follow the pack. And yeah, I mean, Shane did a risky move. And fortunately for him, it didn't backfire, and everyone actually joined in and helped one another.
Yeah,
but whoever you
here
help,
in the live, welcome back in the live here. Just saying that he's here in spirit, but he's going to have to go watch the last episode because he's a little bit behind there. So it's still a while. We're probably about an hour and a half in before we start talking about that last 30 minutes. We'll see how the podcast goes. But Zoe, what did you want to say about the helping situation here?
I just feel like the person that sits out, you get to see where the lines are drawn, and you can argue and wiggle your way out of any situation. And when you jump in to help, you're letting everyone know where you stand. I get your point, but I still just would have been the last one when nobody else is getting up to get up, where I already know who is backing up who. But I wouldn't get up first. It's risky.
Yeah,
I'll never do it.
Well, it was interesting because Shane was the first one to do that. He helped Marion immediately before he finished out the challenge. So that was a really, obviously there's certain people you just know they're going to work together. Like Shane and Marion, they come as a package deal. So he helped her in that scenario. I like the fact that they had these little covered items that they had to pull up, and some of them were advantages, some of them weren't advantages, some of them were a disadvantage. Like Steffi getting the rice, one person getting the egg at at the end. And then obviously some of the really interesting things here that happened is that we do see Meryl get not a reward steal, but join in on a reward advantage. It's called the outsurance advantage. She does have to explain this to everybody in front of them. And then I did not fully like the fact that everything is made so obvious, but I guess everybody saw that Dino got that advantage at the end, and he was sort of asked about that. But his advantage is save the date. So if he reaches day 32, he's allowed to go to the outpost, which could be potentially a game-changing advantage to get this so late in the game. I think it's really, really interesting that, you know, he chose to say that he can help someone else in the game. It's not necessarily going to be himself. So I thought he dealt with it as well as he could, Richard, when it comes to finding an advantage in front of everybody else.
Yeah, I'm also not a fan of these advantages that you find. I mean, last season in the first ever challenge, Rainier had found an advantage and then was almost like exposed for finding it. It's like, hey, you know, you're supposed to reward people that are able to find these advantages. But yeah, he actually used it smartly and was like, I'm actually going to be helping other people. And these advantages are quite interesting, especially because there's so many of them out there. And then we actually see some of them actually painting bigger targets on people. And then obviously that influences what happens in the episodes to come.
Yeah, and Phil also gets something here. He gets the spices with a key, and it looks like he was trying to hide the key away from anybody else, obviously thinking about the game in overdrive. But, you know, Nico says, hey, the key's not an advantage or anything. Don't worry about it. It's going to open a chest back at camp, and within that chest, there's some ice-cold beers and some soft drinks, which I'm sure they would have been happy to get something, except for those that still haven't eaten up till this point. It must have been really hurting them that they don't actually get to eat anything. But I guess beer's got some carbs in it, so it'll help a little bit while you're out there as well. Zoe, you know, would you have gone for the beers or the soft drinks if you were out there?
I would have went with the soft drinks. I just feel like drinking on an empty stomach is the worst feeling ever, especially when you're in Survivor. You don't know when the next challenge is going to be. Now you have a beer, the next challenge the day after, you still hangover. No, I would have went for the soft drinks. But it wasn't a good reward for me. Like, I don't think it's fun drinking on an empty stomach. Like, no, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's kind of, Richard, like when you see Australian Survivor doing these reward challenges and they get a bunch of cookies or lollies or like donuts, and you're like, what's the use of having all this sweet stuff out there when you need sustenance? You need some protein, you need some, you know, decent carbs that you can eat. Probably protein being the thing you're the most starved off when you're out there on the island.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably also jump for the soft drink option. You know, Tejan had, I think his reward was like wine and I forgot what else.
Pasta bolognese or something like that.
Bolognese.
Yes, and apparently when he got back to camp, he was like hammered. And I think that potentially influences how he played, because he didn't really have the best week this week. In some moments. So who knows? Maybe people getting alcohol and rewards could be a game-changing moment for some people that are in trouble.
No, it's terrible. It's terrible. I love drinking, and I promise you, the worst thing you can do is drink on an empty stomach and not eat and be in the sun for a couple of more days. And when you get older, it takes a lot out of the alcohol to leave your system. The hangover stays for days. I felt sorry for him. Any reward with alcohol on Survivor, I would not indulge. No, thank you.
And also in a game where you've got to be careful about what you say. If you're someone that has loose lips when you have a couple of drinks, you might get yourself in a little bit of trouble. You know, out
Remember
there.
PK?
Yeah.
Early season when you got drunk and got in a fight with Tom? No.
Yeah. The Fairy Tiger Wolf here in the live saying, hey, Chris, Zoe, and Richard, it's a nice UK 9 a.m. stream time this morning. This is definitely one of my favorite seasons of Survivor ever from any Survivor franchise. And I do agree that it's a top-notch season with a top-notch cast. I've been so impressed with it, and we've been raving about it here on the podcast this whole season. And this week definitely still delivered. We've still got quite a bit to work through as we talk about what went down as this week progressed. We had an immunity challenge. The immunity challenge was one where they had to stand on podiums and keep their arms above them. Steffi afterwards in the Ponderosa said that she kind of gave this one away, not wanting to put too much of a target on her back, which I can believe. She's a pretty big beast, but Phil definitely outright won this, deserved to win it. I mean, he even had to go while he was on the challenge there, Zoe. And this is the dedication of the man. You know, he wasn't gonna jump out. He was gonna do his business. I think this is the first time we've ever seen something like this happen on Survivor. But he won at the end of the challenge, and that's what matters. That's the dedication.
That was crazy. Even I would not have done that. Okay, and you know, because I'm nuts. I don't think I would have peed on Survivor. I'm gonna give him a nickname: the boy who peed on his pants.
Well, I tell you now, Zoe, I would have committed. I would have done it 100% for the immunity. I would have committed. I would have gone all in like full. Richard, would you have committed?
I don't think so. That's embarrassing, but maybe to lower your threat level, like, maybe that could work strategically. I don't know. But it was actually interesting to hear Steffi say that, and it does, it actually shows how much she's grown as a character, because I think this is the second time where she, air quotes, gives up a challenge so that people don't view as a threat. Well, unfortunately, things still didn't kind of go well for her in the post-match stage of the game. But she played so well, and props to her for making that strategic move of not winning the immunity challenge. Props to her.
Yeah. And the thing is, I picked her because of how much of a physical threat she is. So you have her coming in and giving up things like you can't do that to me. I chose you for this. I need you to fight. I need you to win and protect yourself. Every tribal council there is. But I think it also kind of let us know how safe she felt, that she didn't need to rely on the tribal council necklace to stay in a game. And I don't know, for me, it's a 50-50. It's a loss on both sides, because damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Yeah.
I just remembered now, there was one other winner of Survivor who did do something similar in their own season, where there was a challenge and there was a ball that they needed to throw, and then someone had to catch it or try and get out of the way. And that person was also a jokester, similar to Phil. So maybe this is a good omen for him. Maybe he's following in the footsteps of Fabio from Survivor Nicaragua, Richard.
Yeah, and Fabio also peed himself, so it's a similar trajectory in that way too. So fingers crossed, Phil wins. I mean, who wouldn't love seeing that?
I hope you win. So I can win.
ZJZR08 here is saying, any reaction to Nico revealing the advantage on that merge reward? I wonder if Nico just slipped up, or is it meant to be that way? I think we did address it slightly. My opinion on that is that it is something that Nico does, and he's done it, like Richard said, last season as well with Renier when he found it. It's just a part of this Survivor game where you will see this happening from time to time if a public advantage is found in this manner. And I guess that in some ways people would have been keeping an eye on those who lifted up the ones that were covered, and they would have seen what was coming from it. So it wasn't really that hidden. So if he forced Dino to talk about it or not talk about it, people would have known Dino got something. People would have known Meryl got something from that, and full. So I don't think it breaks the game completely, but definitely something that I think Nico did on purpose for sure. Michael, hope you're in the live as well. I haven't seen you in the live before, Michael. Welcome to the live. Loving this podcast, guys. We appreciate the love. We love putting these recaps together for you on Survivor South Africa, which we love watching this season. It's been a season full of great characters, and two of those characters are Dante and Felix, right? So they're back at camp, and they're having a bit of a conversation here. Like we said, Dante's got that little bit of a spark in his eye for Felix. He's happy to have his boy back there with him. They're talking about how they could run this post-game, and I thought they had a really good plan at this point, Richard, because Dante was saying, I would just run the Breakfast Club on my end, and then Felix, you take care of Dino and Phil on the other end. We give each other information and make sure it's never us two that are going home, and we could ride this thing to the end. So they could have played the perfect middle game here. Did you like this approach here by Dante and Felix?
Yeah, it was actually quite smart. I do think they had something good going, and I mean, it also gives credit to people that were able to identify that there could be a power duo, because we see obviously Felix is from the No BS Alliance side of things, and then Dante is part of the Breakfast Club. So if they really were a duo, they could run the game from either side and be on the right side of every vote. But unfortunately, the Survivor gods had something coming.
Yeah, there was a storm brewing, and there was people who were seeing that these two were very close together. And that storm, in my mind, was Marion this week, who really wanted to distance herself from the Breakfast Club, and specifically from Dante and Meryl.
I think Dante and Phyllis' strategy, it's perfect in an ideal world, but the way that they were carrying on around themselves with each other, it was so obvious. Like nobody was going to be fooled by that. Like it was so clear what was going to happen. So it's ideal on paper, but realistically, it was never going to happen. And with Marianne moving away from the Breakfast Club, on paper, I agree with her, but realistically, I just felt like they were moving away too quickly, too soon, because they are not fully in charge of the game yet. They have the numbers, but they're not in control. So try to keep those numbers as much as you can while getting rid of people that are big threats. And I just don't think that them being obsessed with getting rid of Dante so early was a smart thing to do.
Yeah, I think that ZJZR08 here agrees with you in the live, saying, I think it's great that they are taking advantage of their two sides that are kind of opponents. The problem is that the pair was too visible, which is what you're saying there. It wasn't a covert operation where people didn't realize that they were working together. But luckily for them, there was still another person here that at this point was a bigger target in the game. And slowly but surely, people started talking about turning their backs on a friend of this podcast. And I know, Richard, a friend of yours in real life, Tony, was someone that was being targeted here, and a lot of this came down to the fact that Tony had a lot of connections in the game, and she burned some bridges early on in the game with some of these post-merger players that were left in the game. But Steffi did say that this was going to be a very difficult one for her. She really bonded with Tony out there.
Yeah, it really did seem that both of them had a good relationship with each other in the game, and I know previously before the season started, they were also kind of close. So I think maybe that also put influence into that game move, because maybe someone would have thought, hang on, if Tony and Steffi were kind of on opposite sides in the original starting tribe, maybe they would have tried gunning after each other. And then we also see Dino making a confessional, like it seemed like Tony had a majority alliance going on, and when push came to shove, Steffi didn't actually vote with them. So is Steffi really with Tony? Or is maybe, Steffi playing up the social game to trick Tony into thinking that they're together, when in reality, that may not be the case, and it seemed to work out that way.
Do you think that at this point of the game, because we talk so highly of Steffi coming into the merge, I mean, she had Tony potentially in her pocket. Tajan looked like he wanted to work with Steffi. Marianne said that Steffi was her number one. She would never turn against her. She had connections, it seemed like, on all sides, but she ends up taking out a connection to her here, someone that wouldn't have gone for her. Now, hindsight is 2020. It's easy to look back in the game and say, hey, this would have been the perfect move. But what do you reckon would have been the perfect move at this stage for Steffi? Would she have been better to try and target people that she hasn't played with before, like a Dino or a Phil or someone like that, who she had no connections with? And she would have known that Dante really wanted Dino out badly. He's been gunning for him this whole game.
1000%. I feel like they should vote out Dino. I think I'm going to be singing this song till Dino wins. Dino should go, Dino should go, Dino should go. I'm Dante. I'm repeating Dante's words. Dino should go. It would have been an easier, safer move, because one, you keep Tony on your side. Two, you make Dante happy. Three, you keep your numbers. And this is how I'm looking at it. Dino should go. Wait, I feel like Dante is taking over my soul right now.
He's sitting in the background. If he's ever listened to this podcast, he just fist bumping, saying, I told them so. I told them so. They should have taken him out.
It would have been a smarter move for Steffi, yeah.
ZJ here says, I felt that the Tony elimination was part three of the joint tribal council arc, as Steffi was Tony's downfall. Definitely was, because I don't think that Tony saw that, but also Tony felt very comfortable, Richard, with other people in the game. She felt comfortable with the likes of Adino. She felt comfortable with Phil. She felt comfortable with Tajan, Steffi. She thought she had enough people there that if her name got brought up, at least she would have gotten a little bit of wind of it. And some some of these people are like real life friends now, and they know each other outside of the game. I mean, Tony and Dino are as close as you can get. For those who don't know, Dino won Ruse Online Survivor Org, which is hosted by I believe Tony as well. She's also in one of the hosts. So they know each other really well. So what's friendship like? Like, have those two been in the same room as you in recent times? What's that like? It must be awkward.
Oh, I mean, yeah, they're still friends. I mean, Dino is a no gossip, Zoe.
But you like tell me about it.
Yeah, Dino is obviously a hyper strategist, and even though he's a good guy, I think when you're playing the game, you have to see it for what it is. And unfortunately, even though they may have a good relationship, it was in Dino's best interest that if Tony doesn't have the numbers, Dino has to go to where the numbers are to self-preserve himself and give himself a chance at winning the game. It's just unfortunate that Tony's read here was incorrect, and she became the first member voted out.
But this is the problem with Tony when she plays this game, really for me, is the fact that she plays with her heart and she does not know how to separate her heart from the gameplay. And that's why we love Tony, both you and I, as a person. But as a Survivor player, that puts you in a bad spot where you can get blindsided by those people that you feel so close by. But I do think, for what it's worth, I think Dino made the right decision here, because the decision that he made kept the No BS Alliance safe. And slowly but surely, as this week progressed, the No BS Alliance actually overtook the full package completely and became, in my opinion, the power structure now for the in-game. It was really exciting to see that. Yeah, so Zoe, looking at this, right, we see Tony going here. Tony's going out of the game. She's getting voted out. She's saying, hey, well, luckily it's raining tonight. She's got a little bit of sass as she's leaving. She's letting them know. Did you appreciate this from Tony, that she was taking a couple of hits as she was going out the door?
It's a typical Tony. It's what keeps us going and entertained. Just Tony being herself. However, I was left questioning when she said she's going to vote for Dante. Was she trying to sabotage Dante's game on her way out, or she really meant it? Like, I don't understand it with Tony. She plays the game. She knows the game enough to know that if you tell the jury, the players on your way out to the jury, that I'm gonna vote for this person, you are putting a target on that person. So was it on purpose, or was it a slip of a tongue? Richard, which one was it? Because I thought she was sabotaging Dante at that point.
Yeah, I think that's called the kiss of death. There's no good that comes out of someone, saying that just before they leave that, I'm going to be voting for you. And obviously we've seen this Dante versus Tony dynamic throughout the season. And someone actually mentioned that Dante and Tony are sort of similar players. They're good players. They're strategic. They were sort of like the heads of the alliance in terms of having influence on, saying, well, who they said was going to go home was the person that went home. So there's this sort of like relationship where they are so similar and they're so emotional. I think they talk about it as well in the Ponderosa interview, where they're so similar. But, unfortunately, it was almost like one must die and one must conquer.
I said that to Tony. I was like, you and Dante are so similar, and I think she lost her mind. Like, how dare you compare me to Dante? And I'm like, you guys are the same.
I think there is, like, in Tony's defense, I think there's similarities, but also differences. But definitely in the gameplay side of it, both of them being shields, both of them being very proactive players, I think there's a lot of similarities there. And I do think that even though she definitely did that to put a target on his back, I think it was 100% strategy. I think that if he did make it to the end, she would have voted for him, because she would have been like, you guys should have taken him out. I even told you I would vote for him. Now he deserves my vote at the end. And I think she would have done that. Also want to say hello here in the live to Devin Bates. Welcome back to the live stream. As we're talking here about Survivor South Africa Week 4. ZJ is saying Tony's just hanging on every thread of trust, like how she struggles on flipping against Vander's team after seeing her numbers gone in her previous season. And also haven't watched Dante's Ponderosa yet to see that mix. Well, it was a good one. I thought just the way, I mean, this is not about Ponderosa. You guys go watch that, but I thought that they actually came together pretty well at Ponderosa, and a lot of people were like, haha, we're taking Dante out and we're sending, Dante to there because Marion was like, oh, you think you're going to give him the money, so I'm going to get you one up. She plays a very personal game as well, but we'll talk about that as we continue to go through this throughout this episode, because I do think she plays also with her emotions on her sleeve at times here, Richard, in this episode. So early on in episode 14 here, Steffi said she didn't have a choice. Marion's back. She now wants to make sure that they send Dante out next because of the whole thing. I'm going to vote for this person at the end. She's also saying that friendship will not buy her a house, but 2 million rand will, Zoe. Is this the way you should be playing this game?
1000%. I sing this all the time. I will start my mother for 2 million. Okay, it's 2 million. A friend, come on, that's nothing. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry. But no, I'm with Marianne on that department. Friendship, this is a game. Put friendship aside. And also, if you are a fan of a game, give us a show. Let's have fun. Let's play. That's what you came here to do. So let's do it.
But it's a risky move that they're doing here, Richard. Did you like the fact that Marion and Shane were starting to look at Dante at the spot? We're early in the merge game. They barely have the numbers as it stands here right now. And, having Dante associated so closely with Meryl, there is that risk that they could potentially lose Meryl. But I do think Marion does a lot of hard work in this episode to make sure that Meryl is also on board.
Yeah, obviously knowing that Meryl and Dante have quite a close relationship, but I think Meryl also stated that playing with a player like Dante, yes, he can be a number, but it's almost like so hard, and the game is already hard on its own, and it makes it harder when you have a close ally that you constantly always have to calm down, and that takes a lot of energy out of you, and also maybe damages your game in some way, because you have to speak on behalf of your partner that's seen as paranoid, and obviously I think a huge benefit for Steffi in terms of getting rid of Dante is she's taking up someone that's a challenge beast. So when she actually jumps into beast mode, it makes it much easier to go on a challenge immunity run.
1000%. And I feel like everybody was trying to please Mariel as well, because she's been coming after Dante for a pretty long time. She made it clear she doesn't want to be attached to Dante anymore. The guy is volatile. He's ruining her game. So I think the Dante move was also just to make sure that Mariel also gets her way, because she really wanted Dante out of the game. But for me, there's also another point of view that I'm trying to looking at. I don't think Dante would have voted at Mariel. I think Dante would have taken Phyllis and Mariel to final 3 and have them compete for the final spot. So why would you take someone that you know would never ever say your name? And if you're sitting next to them in the final and he's already pissing people off and you got better social skills, you are way ahead of winning sitting next to a Dante than next to a Dino, who's also a social butterfly, next to Marianne, who's very liked. So I was kind of conflicted. I understand why she wanted Dante out, but I thought she's also selling herself short by getting rid of one person that would have sit with her in the final and would have most likely won if she sat next to him.
Yeah. I'm going to comment on that in a little bit here, but Tobago, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Apologies if I am pronouncing it wrong. It's a painful truth. Loved it. Marion said friends won't buy me a house, 2 million wool. And that is true. But, you bring up a very good point here, Zoe. I was absolutely shocked by seeing very capable players make what was in my mind really bad decisions, and I say it's in my mind and it's based on what I see in the edit. There's a lot, I think, that for myself as a viewer, I didn't understand, because you need to keep your numbers strong when you go into the merge, especially in the beginning parts. You need to at least take 2 or 3 of these players out before you start cannibalizing yourself, in my mind. But this is where the whole thing comes in, where that some of these players know each other from before the game, like Marianne and Phil, for instance. They're friends, or they connected after their season. Was there an additional reason that Marianne wanted to make this move based on the fact that they were friends? Now, I know that Marianne online on Twitter has said she did not pregame, and she said anybody that says that she pregamed, that's not true. But if you know someone outside of the game, chances are, Richard, that you may have said once or twice, hey, hypothetically, if we see each other out on a season in the future one day, let's make sure we look out for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Survivor is all about lying, cheating, and stealing. So, whatever advantage you can have in the game, you should grab it with both hands, I guess. But obviously, that's up to someone's discretion. But yeah, I guess I mean, to be honest, I think, like you said, it's inevitable to have those pre-existing game relationships, and if it is inevitable, I think it's to someone's advantage to actually use them to your benefit, because it could be the thing that makes you win or lose in the end.
2 million rand's a lot of money, if you need to have those conversations, in between seasons for sure.
Yeah.
But looking at this, I think for me it was interesting to see it play out, because Dante again in this episode talks about how he can't believe how great Dino is as a player. This guy is like the Houdini. He keeps finding ways out of the game. Whenever it looks like he's going to get voted out, he somehow finds a way to save himself. He's this magnificent player, Zoe. But up until this point, I don't feel like we've seen this from Dino, and this is no disrespect to him. Dino is just existing, and Dante looks at him as a threat for existing.
I think his existence is a problematic because everybody draws towards his existence. Is that energy? Is that aura in the room? He doesn't have to speak. He doesn't have to say much. He walks in and everybody's pleased to have him around. I mean, we did the draft pick and you were so happy to pick Dino. And I'm like, well, I don't know about this guy, but you love the guy. Everybody loves Dino. I don't know. It's a Dino effect. Everybody loves Dino. And I would definitely be a Dante and say he is a threat, because if people just love you for existing, they will give you a million just because you made it to the final two. That's too dangerous.
Yeah, I think maybe another thing that's motivating Dante's resolve to get Dino out is how good he is at challenge. Well, specifically puzzles, which I think is Dante's weakness. So maybe he's trying to eliminate that because he knows he's a challenge beast as well, and that could be his only lifeline to survive slightly long in the game. But Dino has been kind of bad at puzzles recently, because we see him use a puzzle challenge to Meryl, who actually actually takes it. And fortunately enough, it was on her child's birthday, so it was a nice human heart moment.
Yeah, really, really awesome to see Meryl win this one. They have to run up and down this massive sand dune, collect a set of 3 keys, and then unlock puzzle boxes. And she comes from nowhere and absolutely beasts this out, winning it against all odds against the puzzle master himself, Dino. And this is why I'm saying, like, I feel like this perception around Dino, and obviously as the show goes on and we see Dino get more and more of a grip, he is starting to live up to that title. But I feel like up until this point, like, he hasn't really done anything to be seen as this best player yet, in the season. I feel like there's players that have done a lot more, and he's kind of, maybe also to a certain degree, I feel like Dino has been forced to not play the game as actively because of he knows there's this threat level around him. So if he does anything that looks great, it's just going to add even a bigger target on his back at this stage, Richard.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was also interesting seeing the different types of strategies people were using to run up the dune, where Dante was going full sprint, going up, down, and then with time, you ended up seeing him sort of like degrade and his speed going down. Then you see Tejan using a different strategy where he has this constant pace that's not too fast or not too slow, and it actually works out for him. So it was actually nice to see those different strategies and which one actually worked out in the end for that part of the challenge.
Yeah, so here Michael says that I think friendships to a certain degree are pre-gaming because you straight away have that bond because you'll always align with your friends. And I think that's why Dante and Felix, I mean, those guys have had many brides together. They've watched rugby together. They're boys, and we all know you're not going to vote out your boy easily in the game. So they were very happy to get to the merge together. Bandit Survivor here in the live. Welcome, Bandit Survivor. Check out his content on YouTube as well. Really good content on Survivor South Africa and Australian Survivor. Some good short form videos there. Says, I love the floral queen look Zoe has going on in this episode. I told you it was going to be a hit, Zoe.
Thank you. Only they knew the truth. Bad hair day.
She's saying it's a bad hair day. I don't believe it. Jody also in the live here saying a Survivor tale as old as time. The majority alliance cannot stick together and end up leaving the minority alliance in the game. But I also think in some ways, when we looked at our preseason coverage of this, we were like, great group of players, but we know these are like, some of them are messy players, not all of them,
Yes.
but there were a lot of messy players coming back that kind of, you know, flamed out in their original season. So there was always the potential for them to overplay their hand here at the merge portion of the game. And yeah, it's sad to see like this group of dominant females sort of just not doing it, because I've been so impressed this whole season until this point where they finally go for Dante. You know, again, this is the second person from the Breakfast Club. It just gives people permission to continue to cut the Breakfast Club, because what Meryl doesn't realize is that, yes, she's annoyed with Dante and the fact that the target is coming her way, but people are seeing through her. Even at this vote and in this episode already, they're saying Meryl is next. Marion says that if Dante goes, I'm going for Meryl next, because she doesn't have her king that's going to protect her in the game.
It's a huge miscalculations on the female side of the Breakfast Club, where they are continuously letting people from the outside take out their own numbers without fully understanding where that will leaves them in the game. I don't know what to say other than that it was not a smart move for Mariel. As much, and then it's another thing I like about Marianne, because Jesus, these people's names are Mariel, Marianne. Marianne, even though she allowed people to take a shot at Shane on the first elimination, where he has to divide the vote between him and Chairpiece, she never allowed it to happen again, because she realized that he is her king in the game. She needs him around to throw him under the bus when it needs to, but if she doesn't have to, she can keep him around as a number. So I don't understand why Mariel is not saying it like that, especially when it's getting so close to the end. I went from rooting for the girls, the full package, to take this thing on and end up sitting back and saying, there's a reason why we don't really have a lot of female winners in Survivor, and it's things like this where we can't stay loyal to ourselves and we can't even stay loyal to the small number of power that we actually have. I don't understand it.
Yeah, and it's also quite interesting looking at these trios. There's the full package, which is a trio of, as you said, females, and then there's this trio of boys in the No BS Alliance, and then we're sort of like seeing the typical stereotypical thing where the girls go after each other and the bros stick to each other. But we'll see how long that lasts in the game. So yeah,
and also even after the betrayals between these alliances and how that rift becomes between Marion and Meryl, which we'll definitely talk about at a later stage. I want to talk about that, so keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this episode. But ultimately, here Meryl wins the immunity challenge. She gets to pick some players to go with her to the reward. She picks Phil, Dino, and Rice School Steffi to go with her on this reward. So those are the people who did not eat as well. But then they have to make a very difficult choice between comfort and food. They go and choose comfort, which is a crazy move, because I think everybody would have been very hungry. But the risk is that, you know, Meryl plays with her heart once again here and shows humanity to the others in the camp who wants to cut her at camp as well. And she says, let's take the blankets. I'm a mama bear. That's what I normally want to do. I want to nurture.
I think that was fake as hell. She knows she needs the blankets just the same as everybody else. I'm not going to eat and go home and not have a blanket. That's crazy. So if I have to take a blanket and tell everybody, oh, look at me, I'm a mama bear. I thought about all of you. No, I thought about myself, but hey, you'll come with the whole thing. So here's some blankets. I don't think she needed a round of applause for that. It was just a smart, logical thing to do. You're going to be here till day 39. You need blankets. You eat tomorrow.
Yeah, and I like how it seems like a lot of the times when someone comes maybe from getting an advantage or outpost, Marianne always has this interesting smug look on her face, like of jealousy or anger that people keep on getting advantages that she isn't having. And it's quite an interesting, funny edit. We see
she can't hide it. She can't hide her face. Like, even, you know, that episode where she gets the short straw and she can't hide the fact of how upset she is. It's just she wears her emotions on her face. And Meryl and the others, they pick up that there isn't really this gratitude. So in my opinion, they should have just eaten the food, you know, and just kept it a secret. But the problem is that one of the people there would have spilled the beans. And that's the problem always, is that, you know, if one person is like, hey, listen, I really didn't want to do it, but these three wanted to do it. And, you know, they can use that as a game mechanic. It's funny how these little things in a game like Survivor could be it could be blown up. Like we see this whole thing, this episode or the next episode, with Tajan not being on one of the rewards, and there's rice at camp that they want to make some rice, and then it just gets blown out of proportion, and there's this big fight between Kalani and Tajan about it.
Yeah.
They're hangry, okay? They are hangry. That's all there is. They're dying of starvation and they're just getting hangry. But out of all the situations where Marianne couldn't hide her emotions, this is the one where I actually have her back. I'm not going to clap for you for not eating and bringing home blanket when you yourself need the blanket as much as I do. It was a right decision to make. You made a good choice because it benefits them as well. So I'm not going to clap for you. Hell no.
So guys, if Zoe's ever out there, don't bring her blankets. Eat the food. That's the moral of the story. She would not appreciate it if you brought her the blanket.
We're all going to be cold together anyways.
That's why I would have eaten the food. I'm like, screw it. Like, I'd rather have a full stomach than bring up the blankets.
But then if a person gets upset because you are not showing them appreciation, it just highlights how fake it is. Because if you really do it from the bottom of your heart, you won't be upset because I didn't say thank you.
She said, worship my feet. Here I am, the queen.
Exactly. That's ego. That's an ego speaking. I'm not feeling that. Nope. Stop.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see what else here. And there's one of the other things that stood out for me in this episode was Shane talking about his humanity and how, he's now got a new restored faith in humanity. He came into this game thinking that he was going to be cold-hearted, calculated Shane from his previous season, cutting people. But he says that, it really is going to hurt him to take Dante out of this game because he's grown close to him. He's taken his dream away from him. Who is this Shane, Zoe? And, where did he come from? Because we did not see this Shane in the previous seasons, but he still does what he in his mind needs to do, which is to cut Dante in this episode, even though he does feel a certain way towards him and some of the other people out there. And I've seen some really lovely posts from him this whole season as well, on Facebook, where he is constantly talking about, the time that he had out there and the love that he has for his fellow castaways. He seems really in touch with them and really bonded with them out there.
I have no idea where this Shane came from, because I know when I picked him, I picked South Africa's first best villain. I didn't know I was getting SpongeBob. Like, what the hell? It is ridiculous. I don't know. Apparently it's real. For a second I thought it was being fake, because every now and then you catch him doing something sneaky, like checking somebody's bag and just being typical Shane. But then he goes back to this, look at me, Mother Teresa, oh God Almighty. I'm so confused. And at the same time, I don't feel like he's playing the game so far. Like, what is he doing? I feel like he's following rules for Marianne. He's taking orders, just have a conversation with Marianne. Whatever she says, they agree on it and keep moving. Right now, we mentioned that Kilani was a goat last week, and I feel like, guys, we are forgetting to mention how Shane is just nothing but casting vote and a goat so far. I want my Shane to wake up, because I don't know who's this person I'm playing with. I'm confused and lost.
Yeah, it is quite interesting seeing him get quite a huge edit the first time, and this time I'm not so much. I think he's probably one of the many people that have changed the way they played. Some for the better, and some it seems to be going downhill. But he's a nice guy, and we saw him actually also say a similar thing about Meryl, where he's like, this woman is she's the nicest person inside out. Even the devil would vote for her. And it's really quite interesting seeing this good side of Shane. And hopefully at some point,
it's funny because he came into the season saying that he was going to tell everybody he's changed and he's going to be this lovely guy, but in the backside, he's just going to backstab and all these things. But it seems like his gameplay of trying to be this nice guy ended up in him being the nice guy out there, Zoe.
Yeah, and when you said even the devil would vote for him, I was like, you talk about yourself, Shane. You, the devil, would vote for Maria, right? Because it's ridiculous. And with Richard, you were also on Rob Instagram Live, where you asked a question, why do you think Tajan is not being voted off? Because he's out of the game. People don't care. They don't see him as a threat. And that reminded me of Shane. That Shane had the big edit and a first one, got a first target on day one. And when Chappies went home, they didn't care for Shane anymore. He's damaged goods. He's destroyed. He's done. He doesn't have to do anything. So nobody cares. So he's just there solely for the experience. And I'm not sure if he have accepted that, and he's just living in a Mother Teresa experience and not making any moves because he knows there's nothing he can do because nobody sees him as a threat. They just carry him along till the final 8, which is sad for South Africa's first villain.
And I just want to say, obviously, all of this criticism for Shane, because I know Shane listens to this, and he probably will listen to this at some point. It's not at Shane directly as a person, because Dante talked about Shane and the things that Shane did, which I don't want to talk about that. The interview is going to drop tomorrow, and he brings up Shane specifically and why Shane kept everybody alive out there when they were out there. He said this Shane literally saved all of our lives. And I want you guys to hear this from Dante himself, but Shane did a lot to make sure that everybody out there was okay. So Shane, I think, is just an awesome human being, even though he doesn't believe, he thinks he's this cold-hearted, calculated person. But, we all go through growth in life. And, Shane isn't who he was 10 years ago. And that's okay, because now he's got daughters. He probably had daughters back then as well. I'm not too sure how old his daughters are, but, I think you do. Like, my dad's the same. I remember my dad when he was in his early 30s and 40s when I was a young kid. He was this hard guy. Now my dad, he's a lot more emotional, talks to me about stuff. It's like, I'm like, who is this guy? Like, he's just become a teddy bear. This is not the dad I grew up with, so people grow. That's just the way life is, and I didn't grow up in a house where that was a big thing, sort of being in touch with your emotions and stuff like that. It's not a South African men don't do that, that's just, we're not in touch with our emotions. But, I think that people grow and they evolve. And as a human being, I think that's awesome. But also what we're seeing with Shane is what the edit wants us to see. So obviously he's trying to do things, but he's trying to do things. And from what we've seen, people don't believe him because of his previous target in the game, because he was this big villain. They're like, we like Shane, he's a cool dude, but I'm not going to listen and believe anything he says. Even when he's telling them the truth, they don't believe him at this point. So Dino in Full doesn't want to work with him.
Yeah, damn if you do, damn if you don't. Even if a devil is nice to his children, people are still going to doubt it because, hey, it's a devil. It's frustrating for me because I am his biggest fan. I love everything Shane does. I picked him for a reason because that's how much I love my Shane. But I do want him to make moves going forward. I just don't want his game to end just the way that it has been so far. I'm looking forward to him making bigger moves than what has been going on. That's it.
Yeah. Let's hope. There's still time left for things to happen. And, from what I'm hearing from a personal side of things, I think if he does get to the finale, he might have some votes because people vote for people that they like. And I think a lot of people really like Shane out there at this stage, even though we're not seeing that game necessarily while he is out there. But Meryl does get the fortune cookie that sends her to the outpost. She goes to the outpost, gets the 50-50 coin, which we've seen before in Winners at War when Michelle had to flip it to keep herself safe, and it landed on safe. Richard, did you like the fact that we're bringing the 50-50 coin back into the game? Do you like this variation and advantages that we're seeing from the season?
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard that this Shannon Gus Gates really likes his advantage. So I think she did have an influence in it coming back. It's quite an interesting advantage because it's a 50-50 thing. It's not just guaranteed safety from double council votes. It's it's a hit and miss. So you kind of have to continue sort of like practicing to get it right. And I mean, Meryl has so many advantages. Like, I like how when a name pops up, they keep switching to Trouble Pass, Outsurance, and unfortunately, people aren't liking that. And maybe it will come to her demise in the next episode. We'll see.
Yeah. Michael here in the live says that Shane is similar to Russell, where Noah wanted to work with Russell after Heroes versus Villains cause of his villainous side. I think the only difference is that Shane has found a way for people still to like him, where Russell has never found a way for people to like him in the game and keep him. But I know that Shane would take that as a compliment because he's a massive Russell fan. He definitely now with the shaven head looks a lot more like Russell as well, coming back for a second season. But he's definitely, I think, more in touch with his emotions than someone like Russell would be out there. Jody also says the Meryl reminded me of Sean in this week's episode. Meryl's advantages switched on screen like Debbie's jobs. I didn't even notice that. I did not notice that at all.
That was funny.
Yeah. That's well, she's got a lot of tools in her kit at this stage, but ultimately she's going to lose the most important tool in the game, I think, that she had, and one that she didn't value enough, and that's Dante. Dante being a massive shield for her in the game. They were always going to come for Dante before her. I think that if we look back at where did she lose the game, it's probably here, but it's also a matter of, wanting to get rid of him so that she's not associated with him. But I just felt like she overestimated that relationship that she had with the girls, and that she had a place with the full package in the game, which ultimately, obviously, leading her into the next episode, we're going to see, because suddenly they're going to start looking at changing gears here, and Marion is going to start getting people together to vote for Meryl in this vote. But Felix comes from nowhere. Suddenly Felix is playing the game. He's decided, listen, guys, I've sit back enough. I've let you guys do what you want. Now it's time for the Felix show. And he comes in here and he decides, you guys taking out Dante here, who's my boy. I can't play this with emotion, but I will get even. I will start voting people out one by one that took Dante out of the game. And he gives Meryl the heads up that the hit is on her and that they're coming for her in the game here. What did you think of Felix's game? Because I feel like Felix really took control of this vote and also the next vote. I think he was instrumental working with the No BS Alliance in breaking up this power dynamic.
Oh man, it's so beautiful to watch. Like, I like Felix. He's playing such a textbook game. Like, if I'm ever lucky enough to get cast, like, I'd love to model my game to Felix's game, because that's exactly how you should play the game. And obviously, with him being blindsided from the Dante vote, he didn't really have an outburst, which was smart for him. And then he sort of like vented that through strategic gameplay in terms of trying to convince Phil and Dino to rather, instead of like listen to how the thingy, what's that alliance, the female
the
alliance,
full package.
The full package.
Instead of listening to how the full package wants to break themselves up, why don't we come up with a different way to dismantle them? And it was really smart and strategic, and it was nice seeing him talk to Meryl, being like, everyone is coming for you, because we've seen that so many times in previous seasons of Survivor. And Big Movers was beautiful. So mad props to Felix, from changing from how he was last season to being this power textbook player he is now. It's lovely to watch.
Phyllis making big move. I don't think Stevie Wonder would have seen that coming, because I didn't. Hell no. Yes, I give him his props. That was a big move. However, I still believe that it was the wrong timing for that move, based on the information that they had in their possession. I know that the outcast likes to say, you guys have opinions based on 45 minutes edit. You were not there the entire time. You don't know all the information, blah, 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 blah. Fine. However, we saw and heard Marion tell Phil that Mariel has advantages. She actually named one of the advantages that she has. So if you have that information at your possession, why would you target Steffi, who does not have it, according to the information they have, over a person that you know actually have it? I didn't think it was a smart move to make. I still would have went with Mariel and get rid of her at that time before gunning for Steffi, based on the information that they had in their possession. It was a big move, just not the smart move at that time that it was made. Just because it worked out well for them doesn't change the fact that at that time, that day, it was not the smart move for them to make.
Yeah, it was actually quite interesting, because I think the important thing we should know here is, did Phil actually disclose the information he got from Marion when, Marion was telling him?
He didn't. He kept his mouth shut. I was so annoyed. I'm like, why are you not telling Phil? Why are you not telling Felix? You're sitting with information. You have information at your possession. And that is also another argument that people are making on Twitter, that Dino is actually the brains of this operation. Because if that information was on Dino's possession, I think he would have made the right move. Phil is showing that he's good at taking instructions and making irrational decisions. He doesn't think things through, because he had the information. He allowed his boy to make that move, and it was not a smart move with information that they have at their disposal. It wasn't. He should have opened up more.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and when you look at that dynamic between Phil and Dino, I do think that, funny enough, they're the full package together. They work well together. Where Dino is someone that sees himself as being maybe an overthinker and getting stressed out. He even asks him here, "Hey, can you calm me down? Can you make sure that I'm not thinking about this wrongly?" Because Dino can't believe how this game is unfolding in front of him. He's like, it's like he's in the highway on the Cape N1 and he's trying to get into the CBD at rush hour and everybody is just pulling over for him and he's getting a speed lane all the way through to the CBD, right? He's like, what's happening here? Why are people falling over each other to make way for me? Like, how have I suddenly become the president? Like, is this what it feels like to be Survivor royalty? Is this what Telly felt like when he won his season? Everybody's playing the game for me at this point, and they're taking each other out. He can't believe what's happening right in front of him, and because of that, he's paranoid, because he's like, this is why, when you feel this safe, this is normally when you go home. And I think that's where Phil brings magic to that alliance, because he keeps him calm, he keeps him grounded to a certain degree, and jokes around. And I do think Phil is a good player, but I hear what you guys are saying. I do hear what you guys are saying, that he had that additional information, but ultimately the fact of the matter is they had to take out one of the two full package girls here, and they had to create that rift between them. And I do think that it was still the right move to go for Steffi before Meryl, because that really weakened Marianne, who was at a very, very strong position there with Shane and with Steffi. She was kind of sitting in the middle, but as we see here, this rift starts getting created between Marianne and Meryl, because Meryl is in on it. Felix warns Meryl that they're coming for her, and she is willing to make this jump. And then, in the next episode, Marianne's going to hold that against her, which, in my opinion, is not 100% right. Like, I don't know how you guys feel about it. I thought that the way that Marianne treated Meryl in the game, in my opinion, I love Marianne, and we'll talk about all the really good stuff that is happening with her being in the game and achieving. But like Meryl said, there's a point where you have to differentiate between the human connection and the game. Now, if you're pissed off at me in the game, fair enough, but she kind of wrote her off. It seemed like, even just as a human being, and even in her confessional said that Meryl's fake, she's this kind of person and everybody sees through it. I felt like it went a little bit too far. I don't know the story behind it. I don't know what happened there, but I wasn't fully Team Marianne on how that was being sort of handled.
It's that thing that we female have. I don't know what it is. I blame Eve, okay? This is Eve's fault. She ate the apple and ruined us to the end of time. We just never listen to anything or be loyal to ourselves, ever. It was not a good move. She should have done that. I didn't like how she treated Mariel after that, especially since they made the first move by targeting Mariel. It's like, you target me and then you get pissed off that I saved myself. How does it work, Marianne? It was, and not even talking to her, I thought that was like what Phyllis said. She is ruining her own game by being too emotional, because everybody can now see it, and them arguing in the trap. I just think she let her feelings take control, and she mistreated Mariel, and I did not appreciate that from her at all.
Yeah, I mean, the woman in this game is a dying breed. Like, you see Steffi getting taken out in this specific spot. Now you're sitting there with who else? Kalani? Like, Peter Cow's asking, what about Kalani? I mean, in Kalani, she's so far behind on the plans. She's about 24 hours behind on the plans. So you would imagine that, Marianne would want to find a way to mend that bridge with Meryl and say, hey, listen, fair enough. We try to take a hit at you here. We are a dying breed right now. You and me, the only two left of the full package. I was a little bit closer to Steffi. You caught me with my hand in the cookie jar, but let's rework this thing. It is salvageable. Come in with me and Shane. Let's get this thing rolling again, because now we've got the pre-mergers getting all the power and they're steamrolling to the end of the game, and they're making us look like fools. Yeah,
she could have done that 1000%. And speaking of the comment, what about Kilani? Let's not forget that even though Phyllis is the one that executed the Steffi vote, Kilani was the first person that was shown to us on TV having that conversation with Shane, telling Shane it's time to go for Steffi. So yes, she might be 24 hours behind, but she is thinking the right way, and I really think that it's going to be problematic for her, because she doesn't have the right conversations with the right people at the right time. And when the move is made, she like tries to claim it as her own. And it's like, no, you were not part of this. You have nothing to do with it. So, like getting back to the Marianne point, it would have been a perfect moment for Marianne to go back to Mariel and bring Kilani in and try to save whatever remaining females in the game, and instead of throwing what I say a temper tantrum. I did feel like she had her temper tantrum on the game, and she threw her toys and threw it at Mariel, which was not a good thing to watch. And I still love her, but girl, there was a temper tantrum.
Hey, Marion's in my team, and I do want to talk about there is some really cool stuff to talk about Marion as well. This isn't going to be a let's bag on Marion for 30 minutes here podcast. I don't want to go down that road, but I do want to address it because I do think that for us to be true analysts of the game and observers of the game, we have to be fair and we have to look at the good and the bad. Like, you know, I look at it this way. I've got a brother and a sister. Do I love them all the time? No. They do some stuff that make me angry sometimes, and I'm like, you're an idiot. But it doesn't mean that I don't love them at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, we're all human beings. None of us are perfect. And especially being out there, all three of us can't relate to the pressures of being out there. But on the screen, it doesn't look good. Like Jody said, I just wanted to bring this up before I go into Yasuki's comment. But Jody brings it here. The best players are able to continue to work or try to work with their enemies, even after trying to take a hit on them. And I think that's the difference. And someone like Marion, who's a student of the game, should know that. But I do think that Marion is hot-blooded, and she'll probably admit it. She's passionate, and she does go full in on whatever direction she's going to go in. But Yasuki also here brings up, and welcome to the live stream, says that Marion is very entitled this week from giving Meryl silent treatment to calling out Tajin, Kalani, and Meryl as undeserving players. I don't remember her saying Meryl was an undeserving player, but I definitely heard her go in on that a little bit. And there was a bit of talk. I know we're kind of a little bit loose with the format here, but it's kind of how it's moving at the moment. But there was a talk in this one specifically where she was talking to Dino about making sure that a worthy player won this season to continue to build the brand for Survivor South Africa. How do you feel about this comment?
Okay, I'll go first. I feel like I'm running my mouth a lot today. Back on trend. I understand the conversation with Marianne and Dino. I truly support it, and I actually did tweet that. I felt like at that moment they were being the voice of the fan. We want two deserving people to sit side by side, and we want people that actually play the game and be a good representative for South African Survivor. That's what we want, yes. But I don't think that statement, it should now be interpreted as to say the rest of the players are not deserving. I don't think that's what Dino said. I don't think that's what Marianne was saying. They were just saying that let's play a game and make sure that whoever sits and whoever wins is a deserving player. That doesn't mean the rest are not deserving. That's not what they said. That's not how I understood it. And I agree with what Marianne and Dino were saying. We want deserving people to sit at the end and represent us on the international stage. Because if we ever want to have a crossover of the people that have won, I want to be proud of people who are representing my country against USA players and not US players. I don't want to be embarrassed and like, how did this person even win? I don't want that.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a question. I'm going to play devil's advocate here, Richard, as I've been doing this whole podcast.
Yes.
I feel like personally, some shots were fired at the likes of Rob Bentelli, who wasn't a big fan when he watched before he won. Nicole wasn't a big fan. Tom Swartz wasn't a big fan. Graham, I don't know of his level of fandom. So I think that there's shots fired here at some of those previous winners saying that they weren't a great representative necessarily because they weren't a fan. Or it was just the case of saying, hey, we want someone for once to win and represent the fans because they feel that pressure. Dino was one of those players last season where a lot of people had expectations. They're like, this is a super fan. We can relate to him. We want him to do it for us because we can live through him. But it's a touchy subject here because at the end of the day, I think we as fans have had this argument for a very long time that whoever wins is deserving. It doesn't matter who it is. Natalie White was deserving in Samoa, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key word there, I think Dino used is when last is a super fan won, because I think deserving means something that's a bit different. I feel like if you make it to Final Trouble Council, you're already deserving enough whether you win or you lose. But I think the keyword there was super fan, and we haven't seen a super fan win the game, and partly due to maybe them being paranoid or maybe their Survivor knowledge, unfortunately, not being enough for them to actually make it quite far in the game. I mean, Jacques has been targeted for that. Toriso was also super fan that didn't do well the first time. Dino is also one of them, but he's doing quite better this time. So, I mean, personally, if you ask me, I would love to see a super fan of the show win the game, because there is that level of relatability you see. I mean, everyone wants a winner they can relate to somehow. So I really do
as well, but I want you to be that super fan. I don't want Dino to win or Marion to win, and then you go out next season, Richard, and they're like, "See, there's the super fan. We need to get rid of him. He's going to win the season because Dino and Marion won it last season." Suki here also says, "Sorry, I'm more referring to Marion's convo with Shane about 3 not respecting the game. I do think everyone that's out there playing for a second time respects the game. I don't think you play this game for a second time if you don't respect the game. But I do think there's a psychological thing that happens out there. We saw that in Island of Secrets very visibly as well, when people started taking the moral high ground. We're the good guys. These are the bad guys. Where you, in your mind, like Marion had to cut that tie to make in her mind it okay for her to turn her back on Meryl. She needed to feel like Meryl is now a bad person. She's just fake and acting in front of everyone, because that makes her feel better about the vote that she's going to do. And I think that because they're so close out there, you have to make that decision in your mind sometimes to go for it. But I always feel like it's never a good look, though, when people go down that road, in my opinion. But Marion's probably not listening to this. She's probably got it off it and said, well, this is another hate podcast on me. But let's talk about the good stuff on Marion here, right? She does come back here in this week. She does win an immunity, which is very emotional for her. She's gone through some really tough times, like we know in life. And she's, a lot of people said, that she's being hypocritical for having tears and using emotion in the game when she's saying, when other people, she's going after other people for doing that as well. I think that this is genuine. Now, she's gone through some stuff in life that people can't relate to. There was some nasty comments on Twitter. We won't mention who those people were because we don't want to give them any more air than that. But hats off to Marion for coming out. Hats off for Marion coming out here, playing the type of game that she's playing now. Do I agree with all of her moves up until this point and cutting the full package? No. But if she wins the season, then who's the fool? I'm the fool. Look at Tony Vlachos. He played a completely maverick game the first time he was out there. And, Rob is a podcast. Rob and Steven questioned every single move that he made throughout the whole season, and he made them look like fools by the end of it, Richard.
No one. Yeah. I mean, I love listening to those guys. Like, they were bashing him so hard, and they were like, he has zero chance at winning, but he actually did it. But going back to Marion, I think, she's been playing quite a good game from the start. Her willing to vote out, willing to sort of separate herself from her closest ally perceived, which was Shane. And then, she's been a part of a lot of big moves. She's been a part of a huge alliance in the Breakfast Club and a smaller co-alliance in the I keep forgetting the female alliance.
The full package.
Yes. I don't know. But she's been doing
it's
so.
It's the third package now. A third of a package now is all that's left. It's not the full package.
It does look that way. And on top of that, good gameplay.
It's the Pep Stores package. It's not what's the Bucci brands over there. It's not the Woolworths or whatever.
Yeah, you got a lot of insults coming the full package way, hey? You really do. You take a shot at us. The Destiny's Child was Michelle.
But no, I hear what you're saying. Listen, Marion's played, I think, a really good game. She's been in power for most of the game.
Yeah.
I do you. I mean, I don't know how other people are seeing it here in the live. Tell us if we're seeing it wrong. I do think that a lot of mistakes were made by that alliance this week, and that the No BS alliance just outplayed them at this point. And the No BS alliance is made out of pre-mergers. You wouldn't have seen it coming. They shouldn't have the experience. I mean, Felix is saying every episode here, he doesn't know what's going on. This is new territory for him.
Zoe?
I disagree. I think Marion has been playing the perfect game so far, especially when it comes to the full package, because they knew the right at the perfect time to start taking shots at each other. Keeping Marion on the game at that time was extremely dangerous because it guaranteed her a final 5. And seeing that she's good at puzzle and she can capable of winning and she's it was going to be difficult to get rid of her when it's just the 3 of them remaining with 2 more other people. Those 2 people can go with Marielle and vote Steffi and Marianne out. So they have to make sure that she cannot make it to final five. It was a good move at the right time, considering the advantages that she had in her possession. I 100% agree with Marianne's strategy. It was beautiful. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, let's have a read here at some of the comments in the live. ZJ is saying, I'm all gonna say, okay, it does feel like it's too early for Marianne and Steffi to go for Meryl. Meanwhile, I felt Marianne and Meryl should have trusted each other for one more move, but Felix used their history against them. Well, I guess Felix, with Meryl being quite close to Meryl, he ended up being able to talk to Meryl there. Jody saying, I would love to see a superfan win the game. Cochrane's win changed the US Survivor, and I think that the SA audience need to see the nerdy archetype win just to change the perception. And that's a fair point, because at this point, most of the time, the people who are winning are pretty alpha. Like, it's your alpha female, your alpha guy. Like, you don't get a variety of different types of people winning this game. And it's interesting because a lot of the challenges kind of lean itself more to someone that's good at puzzles, and it's not just physical like Australian Survivor. So this could change the direction a bit here, Richard.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I'd really love to see that, and it's actually quite interesting. I mean, look, the Survivor SA edit is really hard to read because you try to put a lot of things into consideration. Why is someone getting this positive edit? Why is this person getting a negative edit? And then, you just really don't know. I mean, I really thought Meryl was going to win this season, and seeing her blindsided, it was tough to see, because I was like, come on, you're going to win. You're going to play that advantage and something cool is going to happen. And then when you see that final vote being read, and it's like, that's it. Like, there's something hard and just sad about it, but it's the nature of the beast, honestly.
Yep.
It was the Eric 2.0 move.
Yeah.
Remember Eric? Yep.
Peter Cowles here says, I don't understand how you guys say that Marianne did it wrong by voting out Meryl, when if she didn't, she was guaranteed 5th place. We obviously had Zoe just say that, so Zoe agrees 100% with you on that. I do want to say that one of the best move Marianne's had so far, and she has openly said that she's aware of the game she's playing. She's saying, I haven't had like this explosive moves that I've made, but I've made a lot of small moves, and I'm building my CV so that when I get to the end, I will be able to justify everything I did at the right time and how it got me here. So I'll have an impressive CV as a whole when I get there. And I do think that she's definitely the star of the season. Like, I mean, let's not get it twisted. Even when we look at the points, which we'll go into at the end for our tiers and the different teams that we have, she's, I think, still the front runner. She's still the person with the most confessional points, still the most points overall. But the biggest move she made was this move where she absolutely got one up on Meryl. She got the information that Meryl was going to come for her and going to remove her with the tribal council pass, which was great to see this play out and how they sort of played Meryl in this spot. But she knew she was going to lose power in that position, and that move was made, so she lost power in the game. But she then did the one thing that who was the guy from Australian Survivor?
Josh.
Josh should have made this move with Jordan, an Australian Survivor, and given him the idol when leaving, and he didn't do it. But Marianne asks Nico here, can I still play this idol for someone else? And she gives it to Shane, making Shane safe in the spot. And I thought that was the biggest move that she's made in the game up until this point. And if there's going to be something that she can put on her resume to say, I've been thinking about this game in a 3D chess manner, this is one of those moves.
It was beautiful. I loved it. Oh my God, it was perfect. And it's just like a thing of, it just shows how much of a fan she is and how much she is well aware and how quickly she can think on her feet. Because who would have thought that I can still give up my necklace? Because even when she was at the camp and they were telling her the plan, she was like, how can she send me home? I'm already safe. Just letting me know that I don't think, what's going on here? Let's think about this. Like, it doesn't matter if you're safe or not. She's just making sure that you don't get to vote. It's like, okay, cool. And for her to think on the spot, to get permission to give up her necklace to Shane, to make sure that she comes back home with the numbers, it just shows like this woman is smart, is strategic, and salute to her. That was beautiful to watch.
Yeah, actually, Phil told Marianne that Meryl was going to play the leave tribal on her literally 5 minutes before Trouble Council. So yeah, she didn't really have much time to think about it, or maybe she was thinking of Trouble Council. But props to her. But I'm gonna try to be Meryl's devil's sort of like advocate here, because I do get her decision making. I do feel I would have done the same mistake, exact same mistake she did, because
Same.
the thing about playing an advantage is that yes, you're safe tonight, but if you're a good player, you're gonna think about the repercussions of it in the next few votes. And she could have easily left Trouble Council. That's okay, but you only save one Trouble Council, and then the social repercussions of the individual move you made, is probably going to cost you, in the sense that you go home the next round. So I do think she used the advantage in a smart way to decrease a number, so that they can make a 3-2 split in the case of a potential idol being played. So it's a smart move, all things considered. It's just unfortunate that the No BS Alliance really played it like a fiddle, and it can happen to anyone, or the best of us.
They bullshit her so much. And there was nothing that she could have done. She did not see it coming. She didn't see it coming.
Well, she didn't see them necessarily doing the exact move they did, but I do think that she looked at it and she said in this episode that I now am forced to work with people I haven't been with from the beginning of the game. So with that comes risk, and it could lead to my downfall, but I don't have choices because Marion's not giving me a choice. And this is why I criticize Marion still. And I know some people are saying, but Meryl was guaranteed to get to 5th place if they didn't take Meryl out at this point. But if Meryl's in your team, if she's with you and Shane, who cares? And in my opinion, Marion's playing a boss enough game to go up against Meryl. Like, does she not believe she can beat Meryl at the end? Is that the reason that she took her out? I thought that they were playing both a very good game, and I don't feel like Meryl necessarily did anything up this point that was more impressive than anything Marion's done. So I felt like they had an equal standing at this point. But there's a lot of talk about Meryl's social game and how dangerous that is. But if Marion is saying in this episode that everyone sees that, she could have used that against her in the finale and said, you guys all see how fake she was. You guys all saw how she was this actress pretending to love you guys. So I don't fully get that still. It's still like, I feel like those two girls should have stuck together. I'll die on that. And it's because maybe it's because I wanted to see them get to the end, both of them.
It's the thing of Marielle putting out the advantages at any given point, whether she plays it for herself or plays it for Steph or Marielle, whichever way, it would be a power move that would only be beneficial for Marielle. If Marielle removes someone at Trouble Council, it's her move. If she plays the 50-50 coin, it's her move. It counts as a talking point for Marielle to win. And I wouldn't want that around me either.
Yeah, but
even if you give them to me.
Yeah, but you have to think of it like, obviously, Marion and Meryl were part of the big alliance of the, what's it called, the Breakfast Club, with obviously Dante and Steffi being voted out. Like, what was Marion and Meryl's deal? Well, did they have a final 3 deal? Did they have a final 5 deal?
They never promised each other final 5, final 3. They just called themselves the full package, and they're gonna work together. They never once said, "I am taking you to the final 3." None of them ever said that to each other, and they stand by it. We never promised you.
What about that conversation that they had in the beginning when they said, let's take this thing to the end? Like when the 3 of them first linked up and they were all like in it. I understand when Steffi went, that was all gloves off. And that's what I think Marion took it very personal, because I think that's where maybe that relationship between her and Steffi is so much deeper than we as viewers appreciate. Where she was like, you took out Steffi. Yeah. I'm taking revenge. I don't care. I'm not going to work with you. And what I love about this is that we've gone back and forth, and we've got people in the chat going back and forth, and they've got their own opinions. And some of them are like defending Marion's move. Some people are saying, yes, Meryl was taken out too soon. And this is why we love Survivor, because, there is no right or wrong move. And there's a definite wrong move in some cases if you're socially not aware, but there's a lot of different ways to win this game, and not everybody is going to agree with you and how you get to the end. But the most important thing is, if you get there, do you have the votes to win? And I will say this, Marion does have the votes to win if she gets there. I think she's got the respect. I think she's pulling the moves. I think everybody out there wants to see Marion succeed this season, myself included, but I am fearful for her because I feel like she's taken off some of these octopus tentacles, like Palesa would say before she got to the end, that maybe she's going to be taken out as a threat before that, unless Dino is happy to take her to the end, because now Dino and Felix and Phil, they're slowly but surely becoming the power structure in the remaining groups. They're the tightest, and they haven't been shown going against each other at this stage.
That final, that three over there, you just mentioned Dino, Felix, and Marianne. Oh my God. I feel like it will be the most deserving three. And whoever gets to the top two, I feel like that three is the most deserving right now to take the title. And when it comes to Marianne, I really, really hope that when she gets to the end, she never pulls a Sivu and talks about a skin condition struggles. Don't talk about it. We all know about it. We all see it. Let people reach a conclusion how difficult it is on their own. Do not weaponize it as a talking point. Do not pull the USA trouble where you play with people's heartstring and sing that sad story. In South Africa, it has shown a couple of times that it does not work. It actually pisses people off if you come with a sad story, because we all have sad stories. We don't want to turn to a pity party. We want to stick to gameplay. So stick on your gameplay, stick on your game move. To talk about how difficult it is for everybody, because it is difficult, but never, ever, ever bring up your disadvantages when it comes to the skin side. You will piss people off and ruin it for yourself. Just don't do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how people are going to perceive it if she gets to the end, and if that's a part of the narrative. I don't think that Marianne can, if she gets to the end, and I could be wrong, I don't want to speak on her behalf. Hopefully one day I can talk to her about this outside of the game in the future, if I get an interview in that. But I think that when you've gone through such a life-changing experience as Marianne has gone through, it's something that we can't relate to, none of us, because we haven't had her experience. We haven't gone through that. But I do think that it's very hard to separate that, because that is who she is, and she is owning that. She is like, this is me, this is my identity now. So I don't see how she goes into a final and not talk about that. So if people disrespect that, then that's bad on them, in my opinion, because she's owning who she is, what she's struggled with, and she's really exposing it to not just South Africans, but the international community and everybody that's watching it. She's super brave in putting herself out there and doing this. And again, she's doing it for herself, not for anybody else. But I do think that it will form a part somehow of her pitch. I just don't see how she can't do that. I think it's too big a part of who she is as a person. And that's why I will always root for Marianne. I know we've gone back and forth, but for me, it's all about the gameplay. It's all about, did she make the right move for Marianne, not to stay with her? Should she have worked with her? Yes, maybe she's playing a bit emotional, but then again, I can be petty too. So, if I was out there, someone did me dirty, I'm not saying I wouldn't go. I'm not saying I won't throw out the rice. I won't say I won't burn the socks of people and do crazy stuff if I'm out there, If that ever happened in the future season that I'm on, it's not me, I promise.
It's so tough. Like you say, we never know. And I just fear for her because of the reactions that people are giving off. And I just don't ever want her to be seen as like she's weaponizing it, even when she's been herself, because it's hard for people to tell which one it is. And we are all 50-50 everywhere. We never seem to agree on one thing or the other. And for me, as a person who I know loves and respects the game, I just wanted to keep it all game-wise when she gets to the final two tribal council.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I do think Wacky Mackie here in the live sort of saying what I'm trying to articulate. Maybe it's not coming across. He's saying, or she, that Marianne may make it to the end and win, but she's lost a lot of agency in making it to the end this week. She'll have to rely on a lot of others to take her there. And that is my problem, right? So yes, you're worried about someone getting to 5th place. Who cares? There's still 3 spots where you can take them out before final 2. So you still have that ability to do that at a later stage. I just feel like the move was premature, unless you feel like she's that much of a physical beast, which she did win one immunity, that you're fearing that she's going to win every single one, So that's my thing. One of the big talking points, I do want to move on from this Marianne one. Yes. She's such a superstar of the season. So it's hard not to talk about her and Meryl. Like she's been so central to everything that's happened. But I do want to talk a bit about another superstar of this season, Dino, the fans' favorite, the person who's out there playing the game very hard. He wins an immunity challenge here. this week. He gets the car. He calls it the car curse, which we know does not exist for Survivor South Africa because Rob won the car and the season. But internationally, that is a curse that does exist. I don't know why Dino forgot that when he was out there being a super fan, but I think that he's okay because that curse has been broken in South Africa. Rob Bentelli did him a solid in his season. You remember that, Richard?
Sorry. I think I was actually having a chat with Jody. I wasn't sure if he won the car during the season or after the season as fan favorite. Did he win it
during the season?
Oh, hectic!
Oh, when you competed with his mom, right?
Yeah, with his mom. Yeah, that's when he won.
Yes,
so the curse is broken.
Yes.
The curse is broken,
yes,
Dino.
yes.
You're off the hook. Like you could still win this season.
Okay.
But he wins the car, and we hear a little bit about Dino, having gone through some tough times, and 2016 financially, he hasn't even got wheels yet. So how much it means for him to get the car. I don't think people are going to hold this against them as well. Like I think even if the curse existed, people are going to be like, well, even though Tajan was so close, even he was saying, well, you deserve it then, And Tajan, man, I feel for the guy this week. He was just he just had loss after loss this week. Every single time that he was out there just did not come together for him. But let's talk about Dino, seeing him win, seeing him get this reward. How awesome was that to see someone and love get this in this episode?
Oh man, it was fun, and it was actually nice to see that both Tejan and Dino were two people that were sort of like had a good chance at winning the car. I would have been happy with either person winning, and very distraught for the person that doesn't win. And in this case, Dino won. So, I mean, props to him, and so sad for Tejan. I mean, we saw how much it affected him back at camp. Even though Marion was saying it seemed like Tejan felt entitled to get something from the reward, but at the end of the day, Dino's the one that's won the reward, and it's up to him who he chooses to go with. And then we see him make.
I felt bad for Dino in that moment. I felt so bad for him because him and Tajan are tight as well.
Yes.
And seeing like a friend out there like pleading and you're having to make the game decision, it really shows you how much Dino's head is in the game this season. He's like, I'm not going to let personal or emotional things come in here.
Yeah, I mean, he flipped on Tony, so that's a start. And it was actually interesting to see who he actually picks. Well, the strategy he said he used to pick people is that the people that actually chose comfort over like food, and it was actually smart that he took Meryl out of camp so she can't strategize to save herself because she was the target at that point. And then the two people she sort of has good relationships with were also there in Steffi and I forget who the other person is, Phil. So it was quite a smart move from his end as well. He's such an amazing player. He's doing so well socially, strategically. I think he's won a challenge as well. So he's doing amazing. He's the full package alone, it seems.
I can hear Dante's skin crawling and bursting into flames. I told you, get rid of this guy.
Yeah. Too late.
Yeah. Well, again, talking about this, this alliance, the No BS alliance, and specifically talking about the Meryl vote, they had a lot of work that they had to do in that vote because they had to make her feel like she was in with them. They were giving her bits of information and making her feel very comfortable. Were you guys impressed with how they managed to pull this off over a very capable player like Meryl, seeing the likes of Dino and Felix and Full working together like that? How much did that impress you? And specifically looking here at the Survivor Live rankings for MVP of the week so far, we've got all three of those guys in the top three. Dino in first at the moment, Felix in second, and Full in third. How impressed were you with this move and how they played together throughout the week here, Richard?
I mean, they're doing quite awesome. I mean, it's really lovely to see. It's almost like it's everyone's dream to have an alliance that really works off each other. Like if I have a weakness, you supplement my weakness, and when it's almost like that yin and yang relationship they have as the three of them. I'd be happy seeing at this point, to be honest, I'd be happy seeing anyone win as long as they obviously did a good job in the end, because there's a bit of some game to play. 4 or 5 more trouble councils to play to win, but. Yeah, they're doing so well. I'm mostly happy for Felix. I like his development from how he played the first time and how he's playing this time. And then Dino's a masterclass at this point. And then we have a comedic jester and good player in Phil. So there's a lot to be happy about, really. Zoe?
Just before you
Yeah,
get into that, Zoe, just before you get into that, and I'm going to get you to do your thoughts there, we've got another fellow TNT podcaster who did one podcast with me about Australian Survivor heroes versus villains and will be my co-host for Australian Survivor in the future, Michael, all the way from Auckland as well, a fellow Aucklander who's going to join us here for a couple of minutes as well to give his views on the season so far. Welcome to the stream, Michael. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, hello everyone, how's it going? Woo! I've
Listen
been
to
watching
meet you,
from
man.
afar. Yeah, no, it's so great to meet you guys. Oh, no, I've been like listening to all three of you for so long, and it's like, oh my god, I'm finally talking to you. How crazy! Woo!
Yeah, a bit of a fan geek out.
Yeah.
A fan geek out moment to meet the Queen Zoe here on the podcast. Hey, Michael.
Exactly, very stunning. But I do have to warn you, I have extremely bad hay fever. Like even just the look of flowers just ripping my body apart. So I'm a bit allergic to you at the moment. So.
I'm loving his energy. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I'm loving the look of this. It's just all smiles, positivity. Maybe the four of us should be the people that do podcasting. It's amazing to have a
Yeah,
show.
good vibes,
Would
good
love
vibes,
that,
guys,
yeah.
good vibes. Michael, you're a fellow Kiwi. You know, I'm like, I don't know what I am these days. I'm definitely South African / Kiwi because I've lived in both
Yeah.
countries almost equally. How do you find this season so far? Watching it, you know, all the way from New Zealand. What have you thought of the season so far and the players that came back to play?
Oh mate, I'm loving the season so much. Like even at work, because I sit behind like a tiny desk, I have it stationed where I've all these different like books and bits of paper in the way, so no one can see that I'm secretly watching Survivor through this movie people. But no, it is honestly like so good. I think quite like many people when the cast was announced, it's a bit like really like we're getting all these people back, but everyone has delivered to the max, like especially Felix. I was like why is Felix coming back? But now I'm loving Felix. Like, let's go, Felix, you know? I'm loving the season so much. Like every time I see it pop up, I'm like, oh my gosh, just have to watch it. I'll waste my data, waste my work. Like, I mean, who thinks about that anyways? But like
risk it all. Risk it all. It's worth it.
No, we've had a lot of chat on the podcast, like you probably would have heard. I know you were sitting in the back listening to this. You know, we had a lot of chat about the whole moves that went down this week and Meryl going down, Steffi going down, seeing this full package alliance break down in the way that it did. And you and I have been DMing throughout, you know, like being the only other person here in New Zealand probably watching Survivor South Africa. We've been DMing each other about each episode, and you were extremely high, similar to myself, on this full package alliance. We thought we knew who was going to win the season. It was going to be one of the three girls. Now we're seeing it all disintegrate. What's your views on seeing this all happen throughout the week? Because I feel like the three of us all had very different opinions, and the chat had very different opinions on what they thought of the whole Marianne turning against Meryl, voting out Meryl at this point, and the Steffi vote out and everything like that. What was your thoughts on this, and how the powers have shifted, I guess, throughout the week?
So when I saw Steffi getting blindsided, it gave me serious flashbacks to Kelly Wentworth being blindsided in Edge of Extinction, and then War Dog being straight afterwards. Because the Leslie Three, I think they were called, was such a dominating trio throughout their whole season. And then as soon as one went, it was just like a domino effect of just everyone else just kept on going straight afterwards. I think it was definitely a good idea, but I think the timing was just slightly off because there's still so many other people to manage, because as soon as Steffi goes, Meryl and Marion are still titans in the game, so now everyone's just kind of swarming around them, just saying who to take off, either Marion or Meryl. But no, it's definitely really sad. I think Meryl and Steffi were probably like, how do I describe it? Like everyone's kind of looking at them as like the winner picks, and then both of them are gone back to back, like completely mind blowing, really.
Yeah, and especially
I think that was mine. Yeah, you go ahead, Richard.
I was going to say, especially people being aware that Dino, Felix, and I don't remember the third person are a trio that people are aware of. Why don't you dismantle the trio first before you come for your people, and rather letting a trio stay, and then you would destroy your own trio? It's like, but these things happen, and we'll see who wins. Maybe we're the dumb ones, we don't know what we're talking about. Who knows?
But that's the fun. That's the
Yes,
fun with
sorry.
Survivor South Africa, right? If you
Yeah.
look at Survivor South Africa versus the other franchises, is that it is really a game that they're playing with the audience throughout the whole season of trying to fool us. They give us so much information that we are falsely believing them. Like we see how the blind side against Steffi comes together. We see how the blind side against Meryl comes together. They always let us in on the vote. We're never blindsided, or very rarely are we blindsided at the tribal council. But then they blindside us at the end with the winner. And like last season as well, you think the whole season, Chappies is winning. Chappies is winning because he's clearly the biggest edited person here.
Yeah.
He's the most complex character still in the game. And then at the end, bam, Nicole Woolman's come from nowhere and she wins the season, Zoe.
I don't think it's them trying to fool us. I just think it's just how South Africans play the game. They just, I don't know. One thing, Wien and Alan, you're thinking one thing and you're doing something else, and then the game changes and everything changes. It just feels like every week it's a reset button. So it's like like I said, every week is like a reset button. At the end, only the smart ones who sneak in and take the crown gets to survive. But I'm loving it. I feel like this is how survivors should be. Not one person should be sitting there thinking they are running everything. Show us all the dynamics. Show us what's happening. Respect the people enough to know that they're taking time out of their lives to come play the game. So show us their story, and then we get to pick and choose how we feel about each and every single one of them. Hi, Tony. I even lost my train of thoughts now.
You starstruck. Tony's here in the live. Hello, Tony. Welcome to the live. And also just wanted to bring up really quickly here, Dylan said that the car curse still does exist because Rob won a test drive only throughout the season. He won the car at the fan favorite at the end. So that's maybe where the confusion is coming in. Tony, welcome to the stream. You know, if you wanted to jump in and say a couple of words, let us know. We're happy to pop you in. Just give me a DM and I'm more than happy to do that. But no need if you're not in a place where you can do that. So I guess, you know, I think that's the thing that brings me back every season, is seeing the editors doing a phenomenal job, seeing them blindside us by giving us just enough information to falsely believe that we know what is happening out there. But it's a lot more fun for me, Michael, to sometimes watch this compared to Australian Survivor. I know you're a massive Australian Survivor fan. I am as well. Richard is as well. Like, you know, he's a turncoat. But for me, that's the one thing I don't like about Australian Survivor, is because the edit is so lopsided, opposed to Survivor South Africa right now, where we don't really know who's going to win. If you had to make a bold prediction after this week, who do you think is in the best position to win this thing going forward?
I actually think with all the big threats going out, I think the safe bet is to go with the person who isn't doing a lot, and that's Kalani. So I think if I'm on Kalani at this point, go Kalani.
You're either going to be a madman at the end of this. You're either going to be a madman or a genius, depending on how this thing turns out.
I think it's just making sure not to curse her, because every single time we say somebody's going to win, they lose. So don't curse anyone.
Zoe, so who are you giving the kiss of death going into next week? Who do you think has got the best shot at winning this thing right now, based on what we've seen?
Me.
Yeah.
But like I said, I agree with Michael. I think Kilani is the top dog to win this season. Based on everything that's going on, I really think that Kilani is just gonna come out of nowhere and just like take the crown, pull a Nicole. It's gonna be an upset and it's gonna be amazing and we're gonna love it. And yep, that's what's gonna happen. Oh, Tony will come back with redemption.
she's on redemption. Richard, what do you think of this craziness? Are you going to put this target on Kalani as well, or will you be like me? Like, let's have Kalani's back here. We don't want her to be voted out next, right?
Yeah, I mean, anyone could win, so I'm not even going to try to throw out your name at this point. I'm not going to do it.
The viewers are the real winners by the end of this season, with the way the season has been going. I personally think... it's tough. It's tough. I've been wrong throughout this whole season, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you guys the name of who I legitimately think is going to win the season. I do think that it's either Marianne or Dino. I do think one of those two will win this season. Last time I did this, I ended up giving them the kiss of death. I don't hope that it's going to go this way again. But if you look at the consistency of, and not that this means a lot in Survivor South Africa, but they've consistently been edited. Consistently, we're hearing their opinions. I think Dino's got the respect and the perception of being a great player out there, where people will vote for him if he gets to the end, based on the fact that he's got this target from the beginning that Dante put on him, and he survived the Dante assassination on him somehow, and he's now found himself in a power alliance with the No BS alliance, and they're taking control of this game right now, where Marianne is the wild card pick. I think that if Marianne gets to the end, I think she's got a story that the jury will relate to at the end if she gets there. And I also think that she has now got this move that she did with Shane, for instance, where she gave him the idol. She's been in a controlling faction for quite a while, but I would be shocked if the Breakfast Club doesn't hold some grudges against her for disintegrating it and cannibalizing it within. That's my only sort of fear with that. So my picks at the moment are going to be probably those two, but anybody can still win this. I mean, Felix is coming swinging at the moment from behind. Phil's been, the other person that probably is very close to that top two. If it's not them, it'd probably be Phil next, based on the consistency of his edit and just how big of a character he's been this season as well. Tajan, I just don't know how he gets there, Richard. Tajan's your boy. He's someone that you know him really well in real life as well. What has it been like seeing Tajan just having a really tough time this week?
Yeah, look, I've played online reality games with Tajan, and he's this smart guy. Playing with him, he can imagine so many possibilities of, after vote has happened. And in as much as I appreciate that, the people that play with him do feel this sort of like, this guy's paranoid. And I'm seeing that actually happening on the screen, where Felix is like, this guy, why is he thinking so much? That's why I always tell him to plan at the 99th minute, because he can think of so many things. And Tejan's view is actually right of how the vote can go wrong. But there's something about him saying that gives off this paranoid a vibe of him. And I was worried with him coming into the season that it showed that. But I think in the first half of the season, he did a pretty good job containing that. It's just that in the later stages of the game, that sort of like something that maybe considered as a weakness is starting to come through. But, I can only hope that he at least makes it to the final. Whether he wins or loses is another thing. But fingers crossed, man. He's...
Yeah. And I remember last week I said one of the best way that Kilani can make it ahead is if she starts flip-flopping on her team. And we saw her doing that, taking her sabotage, stabbing Steffi. So she's willing to cut ties and willing to move from alliances. And if everybody keep looking at her as like a goat and a number, she can use that position to her advantage and move around to take out the big dogs in the game. I would not be shocked if we end up saying Kilani, Tajan, and Phyllis as the only remaining people in the game, because they are in a best position to take out the strong ones. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, remember Littlefinger? Let all the kings kill themselves. And then you come in the middle after. So I hope they do make that move. They're capable. We've seen it.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at the teams here. So we've got... And coming into the season, we had myself with 4 players left. I had Meryl, Dino, Marianne, and Dante. Zoe had Steffi, Shane, and Phil. Richard had Tony, Tajan, Kalani, and Felix. After this week, obviously, in this first spot, we were going to see Tony leave the game. Shortly after that, Dante followed her out of the game as well, the person that she wanted to give the 2 million rand to. That was then followed by Steffi. And straight after Steffi, we had Meryl making it 4 out of 4 post-merger team members going here, and the pre-mergers are taking control of this game, but it's leaving us now with 2 players in my team, 2 players in Zoe's team, and 3 players left in Richard's team. We're going to go into the points very soon here. Michael, if you had to look at this and say, who's got the strongest team going into the end, who do you feel the most confident about in regards to taking this whole thing out?
Well, I was just going to say, sucks for you guys because you can't lose anyone if you're not playing, right? So, I reckon...
I jinxed myself, Michael, because I said the 2 people I think will win this season is Dino and Marianne. And if the kiss of death does exist, that's the only 2 players I've still got left in the game. So I'm feeling very bullish on both of those. So Dino was my first guy pick, and Marianne was my second girl pick for the season. So pretty happy to have 2 of them still in the game. But I'm either going to look, again, I might look like the madman. I'm either going to look like a genius for knowing this right from the start, or I'm going to be proven very wrong in this next week. If we go on past history and results, I'm going to lose both of them this week. I'm hoping not.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think from what we're seeing, Dino and Marianne have got the strongest chance of winning.
Yeah.
But I actually do think someone like Phil, for example, could actually win the season, even though he did have kind of like a very quiet first week. Ever since that second week, he's been having confessional after confessional, like every episode. Like we always hear his takes, like where kind of he wants to go and how he's going to shake the game to kind of move that way. So I'll definitely say Zoe actually probably has the strongest team moving forward, because I'm really backing Phil, because I think he's somehow going to make it to the end. Yeah.
I think the smart thing for Phil to do is like when they get close, like get rid of Dino, because as long as Phil is sitting next to Dino, it will be difficult for him to take credit for all the moves. So if you want to take credit and get the vote, he cannot sit next to Dino. He might have to sit next to Phyllis and have them battle it out, or sit next to Shane or whoever, but he cannot sit next to Dino. He cannot sit next to Marianne. It would be difficult for him to win with those people sitting next to him.
I think Dino and Phil is going to be this season's JT and Stephen Fishback, right? They're not going to turn on each other right until the end. You know, when you're giving people like little pinky high fives or whatever you call it in tribal council, when you pull off blindsides and you do the little pinky promise what they did in the back, you know, that's a bond. That's deeper than doing the blood pact. You know, like they're never going to turn on each other, Zoe. You know, don't put that in the universe.
It's like, what's the season, Wendell and his best friend, where there was a tie? Yes.
Yeah.
They might just pull that off again.
Can't be a tie with two people. There can't be a tie with two people. And what's it, 7? Is it 7 or 9? 9 people in the jury.
9.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so there's no tie, but still, just sitting them in the final 2, it will please my ego, because that means I'll have one person in the final 2, because I can't afford to have 0 players. Okay, I want to win something.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into the points here for this week to see if anything happened. We had, coming into this week, I was in first place, Zoe was in second, and Richard was in the last place there. I should have really written down what exact points we were on at that point, but I've got the updated points here. And I can tell you, still tracking in third place, even though he's got the most players still left in the game. Richard is sitting at 293, very close to that 300-point mark. The top players currently in Richard's team that is still in the game right now is Tajan with 60.5 points. He's got 32 confessionals. He's had some challenge wins. He's made the merch. He's won points for all of that. Tajan's only had 1 vote casted against him as well so far in the game, so that hasn't counted too much against him, and he's found 2 advantages in the game. So that makes up his points of 60.5. Felix has come from, I can tell you, very low, like he wasn't even featuring in the top, to almost catching up with Tajan now, sitting at 56 points in total, and that's mainly down to a lot of confessionals at this stage. And then Kalani is bringing up the rear for the players that are still currently in the game at 32.5 points. Obviously, you lost Tony very early on in this week, so that didn't help. Tony was your top point getter up until this week, going into this week, and she still has 60 points, so almost more than Tajan, and she's out of the game right now. So when you lost her, you lost a lot of steam. In second place, there is no change to the rankings this week. Zoe is going to remain in second place, but she does have 300 points on the board, so 307, making a 14-point gap between herself and Richard at this stage. Very close. Like, this is extremely close still going into the end, because remember, whoever wins this season is going to get 50 points when they win it. There are some bonus categories up for 25 points, which will be for most confessionals, most individual immunity wins, most advantages found, and least votes against them. So, getting 25 points for each one of those, I don't feel comfortable, because I am in the lead at 354. So there is a little bit of a gap here, but it could easily still get blown out if Marianne and Dino is the next 2 people out, and I don't get some of those bonus points. And my team currently, we've got obviously still Marianne and Dino left, with both of them being the top 2 point getters in the game right now. So if we look at it overall, Marianne's highest. She's got 92 points that she's brought in. That's due to the fact that she's got a whopping 63 confessionals, which is about 10 more than anybody else in the season.
Yeah.
She's also got an individual immunity win. She's made the merge, and she's found an advantage. So that's kind of where the points are up with her. She's had some votes against her, which has counted a little bit against her. But then Dino is in second place overall at 87. So having the number 1 and 2 point getters, he's had 52 confessionals. He's had some individual immunity. He's won an individual immunity, and he's found 2 advantages in the game as well. And 1 successful advantage play to make sure that he wasn't voted out earlier in the season. And the team for Zoe, with the people that are still left in the game, Philip has got 79 and Shane has got 56. So the top 3 people on points right now, according to the system that we've got here, is Mariana number 1 at 92, Dino number 2 at 87, and that is then followed by Full at number 3 with 79. So those are the 3 power players based on the point system that we've got in place. Any thoughts on that, Richard, and how things are going to go here till the end? Because it's looking extremely tight. When we did this, I thought someone could be out by now. It's amazing that all of us have still got players left in the game.
Yeah, it's almost like for my team, it's more quantity than quality. And then for you, Chris, is more quality than quantity. And then Zoe is somewhere in the middle. So
I got the Team Chaos, okay? I chose them for a reason. They are called Team Chaos. They are just here to make chaos for me. Phil with a confession, he's killing it. He's a comedian. I will buy a ticket to watch Phil like stand-up comedy. He's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, at this point, I know Phil doesn't want to hear it because he wants the 2 million rand. I don't want him to win because I want him to come back. I want him there for a third time. And then when people win, there's less of a likelihood. So I'm being selfish here. There's less of a likelihood to see him back in our screens because it's probably going to be another, I don't know, 15 years before we get a Winners at War Survivor South Africa, if it ever happens.
If it does, he'll be the most entertaining, funny one. Because if you look at all the winners so far, they are not that funny. Rob is boring, okay? He's not funny. We need Phil to win so he can spice up the winners and worst personalities.
What, you think Tom is boring?
Oh my God, come on. Tom is not boring at all. But his entertainment is not the one you want to like watch all the time. You just like watch a little tiny bit here and there. Phil, every day, just him. He must do the confessions. No one else must do confessions. Just Phil.
All right. Well, as we're heading here to the end, guys, everybody in the live, thank you so much for joining us as we talked about week 4 here of Survivor South Africa Return of the Outcasts. It's been a lot of fun to talk about it. I know next week is going to be another full-on week. I'm assuming we're losing 3 people next week. I mean, we lost 4 people this week, but if we lose 3 people next week, that will leave us with 4 going into the final week. I don't know how they're going to plan this out because there's so many people still to leave, and then the finale episode normally includes all 4 people or 5 people. So I don't know how they're structuring it because we've got 2 weeks left of action before we get to the end of this season. But it's been a lot of fun watching it so far. And, you know, be sure to subscribe, like this channel, share it if you enjoyed our very different takes. I've been told we've got very different takes to some of the other podcasts out there. I don't listen to them too often. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think that's kind of the flavor we bring to this whole thing as, you know, some South Africans that are talking about our local show. I think we've got some insights that other people might not have, like, you know, the full package becoming a Pep Stores package instead of Woolworths package.
Woolworths.
So Africans will know. They'll know. But yeah, thank you everybody for checking it out, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.